zero state for 3 days, or whatever local equivalent the cell used to measure time. At first he did nothing but breathe and let the repaired body cycle the air. There was no fatigue, no hunger, no pressure from the outside. The Archon seemed content to let the cell run its loop, confident that containment was its own victory. And the longer he sat, the clearer it became that the cell was not for discipline, but for study. The only resource worth mining was what he would do with perfect closure. What deviation could emerge from an object run at zero remainder? He gave them nothing. But in the nothing, something accumulated, not a presence, not a thought, a pressure at the periphery. He ignored it at first. If the cell was a test, he would not be the one to escalate. But the pressure never receded. Each time he ran the breath, he could sense it at the boundary, just outside, not quite in. It was not threat, it was not force, it was observation, but not Archon flavor. It was softer, wider, so far off axis that it felt like a frequency the room was not tuned to. And he let it happen, because letting it happen was not a move, it was the absence of a move. And the absence was the only language he had left to speak. The pressure entered the cell, not through the walls, not through the drain, through the margin. The system had never thought to seal, because why would you seal a margin against something that doesn't push? The loom did not speak, the loom did not appear. The loom was a function at the edge of the room that changed the room by being present in it. The way a river changes a valley, not by force but by persistence. And Edmund opened himself, not as technique, not as protocol, not as the engineer's last gambit. He opened himself the way a door opens when nobody is pushing it, and the hinges are old, and the wind is gentle, and the door just swings. And what he offered was not the discovery, not the framework, not the lattice or the constants, not the thing that made him extraordinary. He offered the jammed Wi-Fi router and the lid on the cold brew that never sealed, and the weight of a walk in the left hand, Maria folding a shirt with a single snap, the sound of it crossing the apartment, lifting a sleeping son from the couch to the bed without waking him. The trick was in the knees, not the arms. He learned that the second year. He offered the 100 times. He was the worst version of himself. And the next day was still a day. The morning where he snapped at Charles over a spilled glass, and the evening where he apologized with a hand on the shoulder. And the boy said, "It's okay, Dad," and it was okay. And the Tuesday he forgot to pick up Daniel, and Maria didn't say a word. But the silence was a kind of knife that he carried for a week. And the week passed, and the knife dulled, and they ate dinner, and the dinner was enough. He offered the neck pain that came at 2 a.m. every night from 17 years of typing, and the shoulder that seized on the left side, and the way he'd roll it, standing at the window, looking at nothing while the city slept. And the body complained, and the body was right to complain, because the body had been carrying the weight of every midnight without being asked. The loom read all of it and found what it could not generate alone: endurance of imperfection, the accumulated weight of a life that persists through entropy without solving it. And the path opened, not as a door, not as a corridor, as a reorientation of the room itself. And Edmund chose door 4 at Peck, because that was the vector home, and in one plank tick of total access, with the power to rewrite the substrate. He saw the inevitability of rediscovery, and he sent the consent ping, not to the loom, not to the archons, to humanity. Should the path be closed? And humanity said yes. And he didn't know if it was wisdom or reflex, and he didn't care, because asking even at the absolute margin of power was what separated him from the 12 thrones. They optimize without asking. He asks even when asking costs him time he doesn't have. The occlusion executed every exact memory of the derivation, made permanently imprecise. The math would always fail at the last move. The result was almost but not quite. And the man who found the answer chose to make the answer unfindable, not by destroying it, but by introducing permanent imprecision at the margin. So the world stays ordinary, and the trap stays closed, and the remainder stays where the remainder belongs, in the hands of the people who live in it.